republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to apologize to everybody that came in early for the budget workshop. There was a meeting that ran late, and then I guess commissioners didn't think to go in there. So apologize for those of you that showed up early. And I don't know if anybody's going to speak to the meeting that took place today. Are you going to speak to it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to if that's requested. Should I do it under new business?
What do you mean no? I mean, the rest of us don't know what's going on because there's a handful of people. Maybe under new business you can update us.
I'd be happy to under new business.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I need a motion to adopt the agenda, moved by Romano, supported by Drillette. Please vote. Motion passes 10-0. Approval of the minutes dated November 5th, 2019, moved by Ha, support by Kraft. Please vote. Motion passes 10-0. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Budget reviews. We'll start with the county executive. I need a motion to receive and file. Moved by Romano, supported by Sager. I'm guessing, are you here? Okay. Executive Delton.
You have the budget before you. Are there any questions?
Sorry. Yep, Commissioner Drillette.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Dalton. I guess the only question I have on the budget is, the proposal is about a 10% increase from the previous year. What's driving that size of an increase?
Well, if you look at the line items, there was an increase in the personnel, an increase in contracted service slightly, in conferences and training, and of course the, let me get to the other page here. The internal, is it the internal service line item?
Well, the internal services, I'm using the 19 amended so that it sort of equates those, so that we're not throwing in the internal services, just for the first year. But the general 10% increase, or a little bit over 10%, is driven primarily for personnel, but there's no new employees being added, right?
No, there was one, we added a part-time position in early part of this year. We still have one vacant position in our office, and that's being evaluated now.
Okay, so the part-time position is not what's driving the...
No, not at all.
All right, I understand. I'm looking at every department and every budget and trying to understand what's driving some of the increases. And, but you're saying it's personnel, but we haven't really added a position other than the part-time that was already in the 19 budget.
Correct. No, it was created in the spring of this year.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. That's the only question I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I actually don't have any other questions. You do? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I assume if it's not added personnel, then is it increases in salary?
Yeah, but as a result, as Mr. McKinnon has explained to you previously, as a result of the classification and compensation study that was done countywide.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, now I don't have any other questions, so please vote on the receive and file. The motion passes 10-0. Next we have One Macomb, and I don't have who's giving this. One Macomb.
Oh, they're under the executive, so.
Okay, so they fall under the executive, so that probably Steve, maybe? Oh, JP, come on up. I didn't do the receive and file, did I? Let me, motion to receive and file by Myjack, supported by Gillette. Sorry about that, go
No
ahead.
worries. All set? Awesome. Afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to provide a little bit of overview and assessment with regards to the $30,000 that has been set aside for One Macomb and the related programming for the diversity and inclusion efforts with the County Executive's Office and our Health and Community Services Division. I really want to say that what we've built out in this is not only focused on promotion and analytics and programming. I think first and foremost, building up the brand in which we've created one of the most welcoming communities not only in Southeast Michigan, but across the entire state of Michigan has paid in amazing dividends. As we stand here today, our county is diverse as it has ever been, and we're using those forums to not only engage those diverse populations from race, ethnicity, place of worship, cultural designations, and even elements with regards to understanding the unique cultures and customs of those groups and how they are integrated here into our community. It's been fascinating as we've really launched our efforts heading into the 2020 census and how we're establishing forums in which underrepresented and undercounted groups can actually leverage our Health and Community Services Division and our other service centers to not only engage the county, but so we can understand the intricate needs of those groups and understand if there's any community service platforms that we could develop for their populations. The other thing that has been absolutely fantastic, and I want to give a tremendous amount of credit to Andy McKinnon and his team in Human Resources, is the Lunch and Learn series, which we've created for county employees, where we bring in experts, whether it be looking at the whole notion of immigration, whether we're looking at English as a second language, or whether we're looking at the whole notion of the racial composition of our community, to educate employees throughout the county, to provide them with resources and forums to discuss these elements and better serve our constituents across the county. And I think the third element that we're really looking forward to is the whole notion of scaling up a lot of our programming. As we're becoming more and more diverse every single day, as we're working not only with individuals that are looking at the whole notion of immigration, as we now are seeing trends in immigration across the globe with individuals that are making Macomb their home. We're working with service agencies, we're working with resettlement agencies, and we also sponsor naturalization ceremonies, which we will hold one this Friday, November the 15th here in the county building. So I think we've made some tremendous strides with One Macomb. I think we continue to grow the credibility of this programmatic platform, and it's something that we very much hope for continued support from this board. And I'll yield to any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. JP, so it's not a department. We give it $30,000. What is it? Is it a 501c3? What is it?
The best way I can describe it is it's a brand identity that illustrates that Macomb County is a welcoming place. Wayne County has a similar type of initiative called Welcoming Wayne, where they bring together a consortium of departments and service provider. It's a banner that gives you the same way that the state of Michigan has created the Welcoming Michigan campaign, and being certified as one of the welcoming counties in the state of Michigan provides us with avenues not only to the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, but also DHHS and other programs at the state.
So unlike Make Macomb Your Home, which I harp on every year and I'm told is buried in planning and economic development, what makes One Macomb different than Make Macomb Your Home?
So what I would say specifically with One Macomb, it's very much still in its infant stages. It was something that was spearheaded by a predecessor of mine, Pam Labors, in the Office of County Executive. Now as we're transitioning with new leadership in Health and Community Services, I can assure you that currently right now myself and Dr. Alicia Hollowell are doing a full programmatic assessment, and we're looking at providing not only modernization efforts to supplant this, whether it is HNCS or even with other elements that we've discussed with Mr. McKinnon in HR too.
Okay, and I believe there's a director, right? There's no director?
No.
Okay. Thank you, JP.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, JP. And, I understand the hope for this particular program is that we can be more aware of the different cultures and people around us, and hopefully be more welcoming and be a better place that people want to kind of locate to and feel comfortable in. Do we have a way of knowing whether it's working? Are there metrics? Do we measure things? How do we know it works instead of just makes it feel good?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to provide. Off the top of my head, I wish I could give you the metrics, but what I can tell you is since the I'm not saying it's a direct correlation to us creating one Macomb. Numbers with regards to immigrant populations have increased to the point of where last year I believe that I want to say it was upwards of 80% of our population growth was due to immigrants coming to the county
Right,
too.
but how do we know that we had something to do with that with this program? Like, how do we know the program is working, so
Well,
to speak?
I would say because of the relationship that we have with not only naturalization services, but also those immigration organizations, whether it be the Chaldean American Community Foundation that set up programs and actually invest in apartment complexes in this county and saying, this is a place where individuals can come, they can assimilate into the culture, and there's other resources that are ancillary to our Health and Community Services division.
Okay, well, I would look forward in the future if you could find a way of coming up with a way of measuring whether or not this particular program is accomplishing our goals.
Yeah.
You know, that would be helpful, because I do know there's a lot going on with immigration, and there's a lot going on with diversity. I just don't know if this is something that is really helping, making a difference in that, or is just there, you know, for the ride, or
With
whatever.
regards to the programmatic evaluation that we're facilitating right now, we're looking at some quantitative benchmarks, whether it's looking at the whole notion of the services that we provide, the forms that we illustrate, but also how that's tied to core metrics within the community, whether it's the immigrant population, ethnicity, race statistics, and how that ties in also to the 2020 census. We've also started some conversations with representatives from the state and from our regional census office to understand how we can use One Macomb as a platform to give individuals a forum for that too.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have measurement, a determining way of measuring the effectiveness of those efforts.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any other speakers. Do you want to speak, Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. Is One Macomb the point of contact for our immigration offices when they resettle refugees from Iraq several years ago? You know, who's the point of contact to the county for them that they talk to about those issues?
Historically, that would come through the Office of the County Executive and the designee for that. So that would go through Pam Lavers. It's now coming through me, and then we facilitate all of that triage and support through our Health and Community Services Division. So Dr. Hollowell is the individual as the lead point of contact, and actually will be attending one of the refugee resettlement forums, I believe, next week on behalf of the county.
Okay.
So we're actively engaged in that and are in constant contact with our federal partners on those allocations also.
Okay, you're getting support from our local congressional offices on those if those issues arise?
It's been beneficial not only whether it's something on the refugee resettlement or if it's any changes with regards to naturalization and immigration, we're providing those resources with the help of our federal partners.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote on the receive and file. All right, that motion passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Next, thank you. We have Michigan Works, and we have Chris Riley, the director, but I have no idea what all those letters mean. I know that it's Macomb and St. Clair, but then there's more letters after that. Come on up. And I'll seek a motion to receive and file. Moved by Kraft, supported by Sauger. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for your time today. I was hoping you would know, so you could have told me what those letters were. So you're probably referring to the MSC ETA. That is the abbreviation for our department name, Macomb St. Clair Employment and Training Agency. We sometimes forget to speak long-handed, I suppose. We live in a world of acronyms in our department.
No, there was a guess up here, and we got it right. It wasn't me that got it right, but...
So we... Our department does handle the case management services for the local Michigan Works offices, the 4 centers in Macomb, and then the 1 center that we have in St. Clair County. In our system, that is 1 service area. And I'll first start, I suppose, with any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, I don't have anybody. Commissioner Brown.
What's the caseload, unemployment caseload? What's the caseload going through the centers compared to last year?
And I don't want to quote a false number. I could definitely get that back to you, but I would say right now what we are seeing in the centers, based on the size and the traffic of each of the 5 centers, we are seeing about 1,200 to 6,000 per center. The largest centers being our Roseville and Clinton Township sites. All of that counts to folks coming in for walk-in services. It might be for faxing for unemployment, applying for their unemployment benefits, just using our walk-in computer stations, attending workshops. They might be going to our PATH program, which are individuals who are referred from the Department of Health and Human Services, or they could be coming to the county staff, which handles the eligibility portion of the system and provides either classroom or employer-based training.
The numbers are down dramatically over what they were at our peak, fortunately.
Yes.
A lot of that's credit to your office and many things coming together to try to reestablish our workforce and keep them occupied. What are there any more federal program job training dollars in the system that are being used today to retrain workers in areas where they may have lost jobs in certain sectors? Is any of that federal dollars still out there? One time there was a lot coming through, and I suspect it's pretty much out of the system, but maybe there's some more dollars out there. I don't know.
Well, you are very correct. There's a number of federal sources and federal dollars still coming through, but we are seeing a decline from prior years as we have a relatively strong economy and our unemployment rate is very low. One program that we are tapping into a little bit more than typical is our Trade Act. It's a federal act, and that is for workers who have lost their jobs due to foreign competition. That requires the employer of those displaced workers to apply to the federal government and be made eligible for services for those displaced individuals. A current example of that would be the General Motors Technical Center. Our initial list was about 3,300 individuals that were eligible under that grant, and they come to our services and they can get enhanced classroom training options. They also get extended unemployment benefits. So like I said, that is one that we're seeing right now a lot more than what we normally have. We've been doing a series of large number orientations at the Verkulen building to try to get all these folks through, get the information they need. It's a time-sensitive process. We want to get their forms submitted in time, and then the rest of it is at their pace as to when they want to pursue training, but they can certainly then get their monetary benefits while they're looking for work.
Great. In my community, the Railway Engine Plants announced that they're going to be phasing that facility out and displacing 600 workers.
Yes.
Now, the happy face they put on was, well, they're all just going to transfer down to this one plant in Sterling Heights, which I'd be surprised if they got the capacity to handle 600 workers, which they probably don't. So what is your involvement going to be, or maybe already involved, with assisting those people should they need it?
Well, one thing we're going to be watching for is, again, we hope the best for those 600 individuals. Hopefully they do make a transfer to another plant. But if there are any layoffs, we will see if Ford Motor Company will apply for trade dollars. We will also, when it gets closer to that time, they should submit a WARN notice in which we will do a worker orientation on site. We will review with the Unemployment Insurance Agency all the benefits that they would receive as they're being laid off.
I'd appreciate if you'd be proactive and approach them, let them know that you're available, that, should the need arise.
I think JP wants to touch on this.
I'm sure he will, but we got the guy there. JP, I want JP to, but, I'm just sure that he's the one to probably pick up the phone and call you, so.
Everything he said was right. The one thing that I will add is we've been in constant communications with Ford and with labor associated with the phase out of the plant. Nothing is certain as of this time, as they're still voting on the union contracts at this time, and both Ford and the local community have been notified about our intent to facilitate a complete repurpose of the facility, regardless if Ford wants it or if we can use our planning unit.
I know you're there, JP. I know you wouldn't miss a beat.
I don't sleep often.
And your whole team.
And I'll return the favor that everything JP said is correct as well.
Well, anyway, please make a call and keep this board in the loop.
Certainly.
As you're involved. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This might be for Steve, but is this budget, the Michigan Works budget, funded through grants primarily, or is it funded through any part through the county?
I can answer that. This department is paid 100% through federal grant dollars. None of the funds come out of the general fund.
Okay. So that being said, I guess it's I'm not going to be upset that unemployment's so low, yet your staffing is increasing in the 2020 budget. But I guess that's the federal government's decision.
I'll have to double check the numbers where you're seeing an increase, but one thing we did
The
add
2020
was a
budget
grant.
adds, goes from 45 to 46 employees proposed. Looking on what, page D9, Steve, I believe?
Okay. There was a little bit of movement of staff, so without having that in front of me, we recently, which I did not bring up yet, we included a new grant that was received by the Macomb St. Clair Workforce Development Board. And that grant is entitled the Peer Supported Employment Opportunity Program. And it targets individuals that have been affected by the opioid crisis, whether through their own addiction, a family, or a friend's. And with that grant that came through, that did increase some staff assigned specifically to that grant. So we provide case management services and help get those folks that have been displaced from employment because of addiction back to work, and that's where we see that from.
Okay. Again, I don't blame the department or you or anybody else for trying to expand your ability to do your job with as many resources as possible. It
Right.
just seems when the unemployment rate goes up, we need more staff. When it goes down, we need more staff. You know?
Oh, no arguments here. We certainly feel a lot more secure when there's, unfortunately, a weaker economy. But some of these things, though, take very specialized and focused attention. And this PSEOP grant is still in its infancy, and we will have it around until 2021 right now under current plans. This is one of those where we don't want to split attention with that grant to any other activity. It's an interesting grant, and actually it started up in partnership with CARE of Southeastern Michigan, Community Corrections, and the 16th Circuit Court Drug Court. And every party has their piece. CARE clearly and obviously would be working on recovery, but it puts my folks in charge of working on their job readiness, explain with their gap on their resume, if we need to send them to school to get some training and get them up to speed again, or get them face-to-face with some local employers. And that all falls under the purview of my staff.
Sure. Okay. Well, I appreciate you answering the question. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. With no other speakers, please vote on the receive and file. That motion passes 10-0. Animal control,
Thank you.
Chief Randazzo.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I believe you have the budget in front of you, so if you have any questions, be happy to answer them for you.
Moved by Commissioner Myjack. Thank you for that. Support by Commissioner Leonetti. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, I don't have a question for you. I don't have a problem with your budget. I just want to thank you for your help with a constituent that I had that wrote us both letters, and you responded super fast, so thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very welcome.
Okay, and as I already, I talked to him before the meeting, just so everybody knows, even though East Point has their own, they're paying for it. East Point's paying for their own now, and the reason they're not contracting with the county is the fact that the other communities are getting the services for free that they were going to have to pay a lot of money for. Roseville and St. Clair Shores are also not getting those services for free. It's a sticking point because East Point's paying the same taxes for those services as everybody else, but everybody else isn't being charged. And I think going into tough budget, and we know this is not the only area this is happening. If we're going into a few tough years where we're going to have a hard time balancing this budget, I really hope administration takes a look at all those and really evaluates where people should be paying that haven't been. Chair Smith.
Thank you. I have just two questions. One is reimbursements seem to be going down. What's the reason behind that? Can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm going to bring up my guy, Steve.
Got it. We're trying to figure out a way to get him up.
So when we put the 2019 budget together, we added one animal control officer for what was at the time being contemplated as a new contract with East Point. That never happened. So,
Fell right into this. All right.
so that's where the contracts for the communities of St. Clair Shores and Roseville that have contracts for specific officers, that's the line item where that revenue is recorded.
Okay. And then, since you're there, vehicle operations is going up 50,000 or so.
So what's happening there, I think they bought 3 vehicles in 2018. So we have a full year of depreciation on 3 new vehicles. And for a couple of years, you're going to see a spike there because the department was being undercharged for depreciation on pre-existing vehicles. So we're catching up on depreciation charges. That should drop off in a couple of years.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. I withdraw. You just answered my question. Thank you. Vehicle operations.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and support. Please vote. That motion passes 10-0. Planning and Economic Development. Thank you. Planning and Economic Development, Director Rath.
Thank you very much. So this is my first rodeo of getting in front of you guys to talk about the budget. All right, I actually have a PowerPoint presentation, so I don't know if that is in front of you. So I know part of the budget process is providing some goals, so I thought maybe today we can elaborate a little bit more of what we're planning on doing. You know, just to give you a quick highlight, our department has had a pretty phenomenal year when we look at the numbers as far as investments. In fact, we've got more dollars coming into Macomb County this year than we've ever seen. Our biggest project was the FCA project. And when we talk about these monumental projects, these are once in a lifetime. Perhaps maybe second in a lifetime if I stay here long enough, but when we're talking about billions that are being invested in Macomb County, there's a lot of job creation that goes with that, along with training, worker retraining, which you just heard from Chris talking a little bit about some of their programs. But we work in partnership with many different groups. So what I would like to do is kind of propose what we're looking to do with our department, maybe some shifts and changes in order for us to also stay on top of the trends. Our mission has pretty much remained the same, really. It is looking at how do we grow economic investment in Macomb County. I'd love to say we carry a lot of the burden of what happens in Macomb County on our shoulders, but it's not just us that takes on that big chunk of how do we really define economic vitality for the county and really put us on the map for a great place for people who choose to do business here, as well as those who live, work, and play. We have 6 core areas. There's 27.5 employees that report to our department. Kind of highlighted them here. One shift that we're making is actually in business development. We're known as planning and economic development. However, our businesses don't relate to that terminology, economic development. So we're just making a shift using vernacular that they can relate to. So if they are a business, they know they can pick up the phone and reach our department. Another core area that we're doing some shifts and changing as far as name has to do with parks and natural resources. Earlier this year, we had presented the master plan, the update, and part of that recommendation was that we have a name for what it is we're pursuing, and so you'll see that parks and natural resources as part of our overall goals coming into 2020. So in front of you in the budget, you had requested for specific goals. Each one of the program areas came together and really kind of elaborated on what they're specifically going to be working on. Salesforce is one of our key software, our customer relationship management tool we use within our department. This is how we track all of our clientele, all the opportunities that come our way, as well as all the navigation with projects. And so we want to do some cross-functional training with the entire team to make sure that they all use Salesforce. On the business development side, we're actually changing our strategy around a little bit here. Typically, we would spend about 50% of our time doing business retention. That's actually looking at companies that are already in the county and how do we help them grow. And then we spend about 50% of our time doing business attraction. That's actually physically going out there and talking about Macomb County and really selling it. The shift this year is actually going to be relying on our partners. You'll be hearing from one of them today, the Detroit Regional Partnership, to help us with that business attraction strategy. What we're finding is they have greater resources and greater staff to travel the world. However, we want to continue to be part of their marketing and promotion for that. As we see the shift in trends in economic development, what we're seeing is that once again we have to pay attention to who's already here in the county and how do we help those businesses grow. We're not seeing the big cliff that everyone keeps talking about as far as automotive. Automotive is still really strong for Macomb, but really we want to concentrate on that diversification piece, making sure that they're focusing on other key departments or key industries such as robotics, automation, IT, cyber. Communications and outreach. This is a big project and undertaking for us to really look at some county-wide reach. I think when IT had presented, they talked about doing a rebranding or redesign of the Macomb County website. A lot of the folks within my department will be part of that team. That is actually really key and critical. What we find, and especially when we're interviewing for new talent and we ask them about the county website, they come back and say it's hard to navigate and it's confusing. And so, for us, that's the outward face that we have, and we want to make sure we pay attention to that. Another key area that we've shifted, and this actually has to do with the shift in employment as well, is talent outreach. As we continue to grow as a county, we're bringing in 12 new people a day. We're also looking at maybe some major shifts in employment as far as talent attraction, keeping those individuals within the county. So the strategy here is really focusing on our partners with the K-12, MISD, and Macomb Community College. The effort's called Fueling the Talent Pipeline. There's a lot that falls under that, including Manufacturing Day, this Robotics Collaborative, MadCat, which is our cybersecurity initiative to really look at increasing those types of high-tech jobs. Working with Ford, our partners at Ford NGL, Next Generation Learning. Right now we have 2 high schools that have taken on this transformational program where we're finding more and more businesses have an opportunity to help with the curriculum and the design of what high school looks like for these students. And then Career Tech Ed. Ultimately, if we have the opportunity to talk to high school students about career opportunities and they decide to go off to college, we want them to come back to Macomb County. We want them to raise their families here. So it's a very long-term goal, but we know that we've got to put forth effort in order to plant those seeds. On the community planning side, this is really an aggressive goal that we've got to really sit down with our 27 communities that make up Macomb County. Right now we do provide planning services for 2 of them, in which we do receive some revenue, one being New Haven and Utica. Really want to expand this to really sit down and have listening sessions with all 27 to really determine what is in their master plan, where do they see their growth, and then how do we align that, looking at it as the county being the umbrella agency. And then there's other specific grants that fall within this group, including the Selfridge Sustainability Study, the Macomb Orchard Trail Project, as well as Brownfield. Mapping and data services, GIS is one of those technology advancements where we're finding more and more uses for GIS. From a business decision tool, it really does help a lot of our prospects understand why they would want to locate to Macomb County. What does the demographics look in that community? What are traffic counts? All that data that we're able to pull using our GIS. We want to continue to grow that just because we see some value in the business analytics of that, but then also looking at it from countywide, how GIS is being utilized throughout some of the other departments. And really honing in on how can we come up with some best practices for that. And then Parks and Natural Resources, each of you had an opportunity to read through our Parks and Natural Resources, the master plan. These were the 5 specific goals that came from that, and so we've got a strategy on how we will help implement these 5 core goals. And so what's in front of you is the budget that was submitted, and then we do have some key projects in order for us to make this all happen, and I wanted to specifically maybe highlight these key projects. Protect and grow. When we talk about the defense industry, how do we protect and grow our assets, whether it be the Detroit Arsenal or the Selfridge Air National Guard Base? There are strategies underway on how we do this, also working closely with our partners at the MEDC. Fueling the talent pipeline, I mentioned that briefly, but that really is looking at that connectivity back to our K through 12s in the high schools. Robotics Collaboration Center, this is a key project working with our partners at Macomb Community College, MISD, and the City of Sterling Heights to open up a Robotics Collaboration Center so that students that are involved in FIRST Robotics or any type of robotics type programming has connectivity to materials, mentors, as well as the opportunity for them to work directly with industry. Parks and Natural Resources, PED branding strategy, site selectors, solid waste. This is something that, we're just standing up the committee for the solid waste. And so we do have a budget line item that we set aside every year just in case we have to stand up that committee and hire a consultant. Aerial photography, this is coming back on the docket. This is something we do every other year. So this is, 2020 will be another year that we do some aerial photography. Citizens Planner, that is something where we help supplement the communities that want to send individuals that want to learn about planning. It's a great course offered through the MSU Extension. It provides a baseline of what we're trying to promote and educate as far as planning in the county. Macomb Business Awards and then the Macomb Partners. So with that, if you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you. Let me get a receive and file. Moved by Gillette, supported by Ha. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Vicki. Make Macomb your home.
You got it.
Where is it?
That is part of our advertising and marketing budget, which falls under services.
Supplies and services?
Supplies and services.
Okay. Steve, can I get a breakdown of that?
Supplies and services?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Vicki, another question. You said we have contractual planning services with, I think you said New Haven and Utica.
Mm-hmm.
What do we charge for that?
I will have to pull up the retainer.
Okay.
We charge a very nominal fee for those services, and it's something that we actually want to sit down with each of those communities. We brought on both of those communities during the time when they were really hit hard with the recession and were not able to provide their own planning services. We're at a point where we really want to be able to hand off a lot of the day-to-day back to the communities.
Okay, and then.
But for us, it's a revenue generator.
Gotcha. And then last question for the GIS, the mapping services that we provide. Do we provide that to businesses, prospective businesses? How does that? JP's shaking his head back there. Do we charge for that service?
No. When we put together an RFP or a proposal in which we're trying to attract a business here, that goes into the big proposal.
Okay.
Having that demographic data helps them make those decisions on where they're going to locate.
Sure. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you,
You
Madam
got it.
Chair.
Thank you. Chair Smith?
Thank you, Vicki.
Welcome.
I have a couple questions. Number one, well, first I'll start with a comment. What you guys do seems to be fantastic. I mean, you guys come up with a lot of great, innovative ideas. My question, though, will go back to kind of like, I think what Commissioner Drolet asked about a different agency. How do you actually know what your effect is? I mean, I can understand on the school programs, you're developing a program with industry and these kids are directly affected by it. But, in a community, in a good environment with the economy the way that it is, obviously a certain percentage of anything that you touch would have come here anyway. How do you guys figure that out? Do you have do you do polls, or how does that work?
We measure direct, right? So when I say we brought in $1.7 billion in investments, that's direct, which means someone on our staff directly worked with that business to get them that help with that incentive or that project.
And they were on their way to it. Some of them didn't even think about that project, or some of them just came to you. I mean, there's is there a mix from?
It's kind of like the zero-sum game. Like if you were not at the table, would the project have ever happened? So we know the 1.7. We had somebody from the county that was sitting at the table working directly with that client.
Okay.
And so that's a direct measure. That number is much larger when we look at the ones that we weren't directly involved with, but we know they came here. For example, some of the retail shops that you see popping up, they've chosen that community. It's an indirect because there's a lot of people in that community and we might have had an influence, but we can't directly contribute that to us.
And that's fantastic. It does sound like it's a little more I guess you could put the numbers to it a little better than what I was thinking in the past, because it's always one of those things where the economy is good, people are coming in here anyway, and I never really had it explained to us like that. Or maybe we didn't, I just didn't understand it.
Right. When we crunch the numbers, the 1.7
JP, you're supposed
billion.
to look up on that. All right.
Yeah. You know, if you take that number, that 1.7 billion, and divide that by the 27 staff members that might have directly or indirectly touched that project, I mean, you're looking at a return of about 63 million per employee. This is pretty significant.
Well, so we're looking at raises? I'm just kidding.
I would love that.
Just kidding. My last question has to do with parks and the Parks and Natural Resource Plan. There's a lot going on for the fact that we have one park. Do we have a plan on acquiring, or what's our plan for parks in the future? It seems like we should, I mean, I don't know. It seems like we should be more involved having more parks, and I don't know how that goes, but you do. What's our plan
and
for
part
that?
of the plan with the Parks and Natural Resources is really to brand and emphasize the parks that we already have. Some of them are owned by the county, some of them are owned by some partnerships, but then also looking at the local communities and what their parks brings. Like, for example, Dodge Park has spent a lot of money investing in their park and making that a great asset for the community. That is not just for the residents of Sterling Heights. And so where we can step in is really highlighting what other communities are doing with their parks and rec plans.
Right, so overall master plan kind of all the parks,
it.
whether they're owned by the county or communities.
Right. Residents don't make that choice. You know, they don't make that decision saying, oh, that park's Sterling Heights, so I'm not going to go there.
Right.
They want to know where can they bring their families to recreate.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Vicki, thank you for the excellent job you and your department are doing. I have personally attended 2 ribbon cuttings in Roseville where she was there as they opened up new business, and I think that was a direct result of your efforts. But a question for you. In your presentation, you had E911 and Solid Waste Committee in there. What do you anticipate doing with those 2?
So the E911, we actually have an employee that does a lot of the GIS. He's one of our senior GIS technicians that provides that services to the sheriff's office. So it really is making sure that we keep him in the loop as part of the overall strategy. The Solid Waste Committee, you know, when we look at the master plan for, it's like a 25-year master plan for the solid waste, you know, we are hitting, I think, 20 years right now. So we probably want to revisit that one.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote. Motion passes 9-0. And she's not going anywhere because we're going to go to the Detroit Regional Chamber. And I believe the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Detroit Partnership dollar amounts in the budget need to be flipped. So when we're making amendments, I don't.
We can just make that administrative review.
Just letting you guys know that it's the 70,000 belongs with the partnership, and the 45,000 belongs with the chamber, but that's not what the budget says. So let's get a motion to receive and file. Moved by Gillette, supported by Leonetti. Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
Yes, and so when we talk about what we do in planning and economic development, we are one solo agency, and we've partnered really strongly with a lot of our outside agencies, including the Detroit Regional Chamber, the Detroit Regional Partnership, Automation Alley, which those 3 organizations are here today. I've asked for them to present on just their overall strategy and how that impacts what we're trying to do here. So if I could have Glenn Stevens from the Detroit Chamber talk a little bit about what the Chamber does.
Sure. Good afternoon to the Commission, and thank you for the opportunity. I will comment real quickly on Macomb County from a perspective standpoint. I work around the state, and we don't find a county is engaged. Literally, your people are in the room all the time with us, and we really appreciate that. And I mean that very sincerely, so thank you to your team. The Detroit Regional Chamber, just to give you a big picture, is the 4th largest chamber of commerce in the country. And it encompasses the 11 counties of southeast Michigan. So it's a pretty substantial chamber. Within the chamber, there's a foundation. And that's where our economic development work is done. And to speak to that specifically and related to Macomb today, what I'd like to talk about are really 5 things. Our commitment to the automotive industry, our commitment to the defense industry, the mobility industry, which is the transforming industry that you're seeing around us, talent and research. So very specifically, I help lead Mich Auto, which is the economic development group and organization which promotes, retains, and grows the auto industry in Michigan. It's housed at the chamber. It's part of the economic development work. We're focused on advocacy for the industry, so you always have in Macomb County a voice for Macomb County through our advocacy efforts in state government, and we work very closely with your legislators in the area and the planning and economic development. But our focus also is on talent, and I won't spend a lot of time except to say that that is the #1 thing we're focused on, because that is the lifeblood of whether it's Macomb or anywhere else in Michigan or globally, and there is definitely a war on talent and a competition for it. I was at MI Career Quest the other day. Macomb was very present at it. There were 11,000 students that went through the other day. Macomb Community College is very present, and we're very focused on making sure that we drive as many of those students into the industries we have today. So that's a big focus for us. But we're also very focused on looking at talent holistically. So veterans, 300,000 come back into the workforce every year. Reskilling and retraining, immigration reform, and different forms of diversity and inclusion that we can promote around the industry too. The last thing I'll talk about with regards to Mich Auto is the mobility industry. And that is the transformation that's going on in the industry. That's the connected part of the auto, the electrification that's occurring, the autonomous vehicle development, and then the shared use economy. We're very focused on making sure that our economy in Michigan transforms with the way the auto industry is transforming, and Macomb is playing a very, very prominent part in that. So we're very, very close partners on that. The other thing that I would mention is that part of the funding, and we appreciate your consideration, goes to a platform we call Driven. And Driven is a website which tells the story of Southeast Michigan, including Macomb, and the technology that's going on here around the globe. So that is a very important platform. And then also we're very committed to, I'll switch to defense. I don't have to tell you about the assets you have here, but we tell the world and we tell the region, and we're very committed and working very closely with the assets here in the defense industry. Particularly Vicki is very involved in this, so we work very closely with her. We work very closely with the Detroit Arsenal. We're very involved with the promote and retain of the defense industry, including with other partners around the state. So there's a very specific strategy that we're pursuing to focus on the promotion and the retention of the industry we have today. And lastly, I would mention that the Chamber's COO, Tammy Carnreich, and some of you have met her, she is the civilian aide to the U.S. Secretary of the Army, Mark Esper, currently, and serves in a very important role for the U.S. Army, and is very, very tied to the defense community in Macomb. I also want to tell you very briefly about a platform we call Let's Detroit. This is a regional platform. It is a website, but it's more than that. This is designed to engage the graduates and the talent that we create here and to attract new talent here. And it's really primarily focused on getting young people to want to live, work, and play in a place like Macomb. It's a new platform. It's taken off. It was created by benchmarking a lot of different global platforms around the world. But we now have our own talent portal called Let's Detroit that is very, very focused on that. And Macomb plays a very prominent role in that. Places to live, places to work, places to play, eat, all different types of things are profiled on that website. And lastly, I'll mention research. We work very closely with your research department. We have a Detroit Regional Data Center that shows different facets of the economy here. That's something we've worked very closely with you. And if you go to our Mich Auto website, you can see the entire auto industry in Michigan profiled, and you'll note the Macomb County Planning Department logo on that website because they helped create us. And I'll leave you with one quick fact that is very, very important. And we wouldn't be able to visualize this website without your support. There are now 21 OEMs located in Southeast Michigan, which is an amazing number. So we know the Fords, the GMs, the FCAs, But now there are 21 total different OEMs, car manufacturers, that are here with either their global headquarters or a research and design and engineering center. And there isn't any place in the world like that. So together with your department, your research team, and our team, we've been able to profile that, put it on the website, and show our community, but also people around the world that we have that. So again, our focus is on the talent part of the industry, promoting and retaining the industry we have and growing it here, and that's our big focus. What I'll segue now to, back to Vicki, is the Detroit Regional Partnership. And just to frame that for you, that used to be part of the chamber, and it split away earlier this year in its new entity. We work very closely with them. They're focused on the attraction side of things, and we're really focused on the attraction and the retention of the talent that's here right now and keeping the businesses growing that are here. Thank you. Any questions?
Do I have a receive? Did I do it? I do? Okay, Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that report. I'm a little confused. Are you here also representing the Detroit Regional Partnership as well as the chamber?
That would be my colleague at that organization, Justin. He'll do that right after me.
Okay, terrific. Because one question that I have is if the chamber is doing Mish Auto and a lot of that type of work, what is Automation Alley doing? Are we duplicating? How many more regional cooperation for jobs partnerships should we have? If we've got the Detroit Regional, we've got the Detroit Regional Partnership, we've got Automation Alley. I mean, you mentioned that previously the chamber had taken on the work of the partnership, but it recently split off.
Right.
One could argue that we have to, now it's costing us twice as much because it used to be done by one entity and now we're, joining two. So I'd like a little bit more information about, the benefit we're getting by that additional cost with the new partnership.
Well, let me address two specific things to your point. First of all, Automation Alley, and do we have too many of different things? I think that across the state, and particularly in the region, the business leaders have all gotten on the same page far more than I've ever seen in my lifetime about who does what and who's in what lane. For example, and you'll hear from Tom, Automation Alley literally owns the Industry 4.0. What does the factory of today and the factory of the future look like, and all the technologies around? That's the space that they really focus on, and there isn't anybody else that does that. That is their space. So I think
I'm not sure what that is.
So when you, Tom,
okay,
he'll explain it. But I mean, he'll explain it. But
yeah, my questions are probably jumping ahead to organizations.
I want to address your question because I think it's important that we're very careful not to go in each other's lanes or duplicate or replicate, particularly when we're all going to people asking for funding. So that's the first thing. The second thing is with regards to the Detroit Regional Partnership. What the business community found and decided by benchmarking Houston, Austin, Texas, Columbus, Atlanta, is that we were not investing enough money in regional business attraction. We were far, far behind any peer city or any peer region in the country. And the decision was made to create a separate entity and to focus 100% and really literally quadruple the number of investment that went into pure business attraction to promote the region. And that became its own entity. And that's why that decision was made. And Justin can talk a little bit more to that too.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing from the other two speakers, sort of filling in on that answer. Thank you very much.
But those are great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at the cost of membership in 17, 18, 19. So in 17, it was $40,500. 2018, it was $124,000. And then it was $81,000 this year, and then next year it's $45,000. Why the back and forth? Why?
Well, one of the significant differences and why it's lower is because the Detroit Regional Partnership, the attraction part, is not part of us anymore.
Okay.
So you're funding pretty close to it's a little bit higher when you add the two together.
It is, yeah.
But that's why you'll see that major difference.
Okay, and I guess this may be, for Vicki, this may be just a rhetorical question, but we have a ton of chambers here in Macomb County. Why are we giving the Detroit Regional Chamber money, and I don't see any Macomb County chambers on this list?
You're funding the foundation part of it, which is where the economic development work is, okay?
Okay.
That's where the funding is. So
So it's not a membership for me to come down to your meetings or a resident to
Well,
come
you are,
down?
I mean, it does include a membership, but
Okay.
the funding is going to the economic development work.
Okay.
Around the auto industry, the defense industry, and talent.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I think I may have an answer for your question, Commissioner. So if you look at 17 and 18, I'm going to guess that if you look at 17, that's half of 81,000. 124,000 is 150% of 81,000. So I think we probably corrected in 18 what we didn't pay in 17. So over the course of the 2 years, you've got 81,000 a year.
And I didn't answer that part of it because I didn't know the answer. Okay, that's it.
Commissioner Brown?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Yeah. The foundation is what we're paying for, the economic development work. Do you reach down to the local chambers, though, in the county to try to, if there's a plant, like say Romeo plant, got the Romeo Ford plant's going to be transitioning into something's going to come there. We don't know what it'll be, but something's going to happen there, and it's not going to remain vacant. Is there any examples where you've come and worked with local chambers and reached down to their level and say, listen, this is what we're trying to do? So something that we could point to say, listen, the Detroit Regional Chamber is really a partner to all of us locally here too, and point to this couple of these activities. Maybe they're not a lot, but maybe there's a couple. So is there anything like that?
Yeah,
that we
I mean,
can point to?
a very specific, and I'm very familiar with the Romeo plant and what's going on in the transition with what it makes and what the industry needs. I think a perfect example of that is a program we call Detroit Drive Degrees. So there are almost 700,000 people in Southeast Michigan who have finished high school and started something else. Maybe a welding certificate, maybe community college, maybe a 4-year degree, and not completed it. So there are almost 700,000 people in Southeast Michigan that have started a degree, but life got in the way or funding got in the way. We're really focused on that. In that program, Detroit Drives Degree, there are representatives from all the different counties, chambers, other economic development. They're all working on this together. I don't know specifically what chambers in the Macomb County. I know that Macomb County and Vicky's department is very involved in that. But that is a perfect example where there's a big tent, and if you want to work on that issue of getting people to complete the degrees or the certifications they've started, it is a really big program that we're focused on.
Okay. From time to time, I noticed emails inviting me to things that the Detroit Regional Chamber is having, some meetings and so forth like that. Are they on a quarterly schedule? How do they?
Yeah, on the website, specifically for the chamber, everything is laid out. Everything from the Mackinac Policy Conference to a seminar that might be on, business practices. That's all laid out on the chamber's website. On the Mishauto website, you'll find a separate calendar, which is very focused on what we're doing in the auto industry and with the defense industry or in the mobility industry. And if that's something you'd like to be connected to better, we'd be happy to do that.
I'd like to.
Sure, absolutely. I could maybe get your card after the meeting.
I'll talk to you after.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other commissioners. Please vote. The motion passes 9-0. Next, we have the Detroit Regional Partnership. Go ahead, Vicki.
All right, thank you. Glenn did a great job of kind of prefacing the Detroit Regional Partnership. This was something that actually spun out of the Detroit Regional Chamber. Having worked closely with, this is Justin Robinson. He actually was a former employee here at Macomb County.
9 years.
9 years. A little back history. Justin left, which created the vacancy for me to get the job here. So
You got the better trade.
So Justin is one of the vice presidents for the Detroit Regional Partnership. This is also a regional collaboration. In my slides, when I talked about us making that shift with 80% business retention, 20% attraction, we're looking at filling in the gap by really relying on the resources coming out of the Detroit Regional Partnership.
Thank you, Vicki, and good afternoon. So today I'm going to share a little bit about who we are, kind of why we were created and what we're going to deliver in value to Macomb County and the region as a whole. So with that, I will jump in. As Glenn shared, we were spun out from the Detroit Regional Chamber. 3 or 4 years ago, there was a benchmarking study conducted by PwC that looked at the top performing regions across the country, really trying to understand what our economy was missing in order to push us forward right beyond the growth that we've been seeing. And really the outcome of that was the need for kind of a separate business attraction and marketing entity that was really solely focused on doing just that for the region. Why that is important is some high-level slides here, right? We took 6 months. We were founded January 1st of 2019. We're data-driven, designed to deliver very specific metrics. What we looked at is what is our region missing? What do we need to do in order to move the needle? And so while we know, right, we have a strong auto presence, 6 of our top 8 industries here in the region are recession prone, right? When we go into recession, we are hurt earlier and worse than the rest of the country. We have a great talent pool, right? But if you look at our aging labor force, right, it makes us less competitive. Strong connectivity right across this region, our connectivity through DTW, globally connected through the auto industry, right? But we're often not perceived as the best place in the United States to do business. What does this impact look like? And so 2001, you can see we had about 2.6 million people in our workforce. 2009 hit the recession. We're not projected to recover the lost jobs out of the recession it's going to be past 2030, right? So we're still recovering, right? And we don't have the tools and the strategy currently in place to move beyond that number. So the partnership was formed to say, how do we change that course, right? And see some greater potential job growth than we would have gotten if the partnership didn't exist. And so what our mission is, how do we become the best performing region amongst our peer regions, which is essentially within the Midwest. The best performing region currently in the Midwest is in the Indy region, actually. It's in Indiana, so the Indy metro region. Right now, right, we will see 2029, 2.5 million jobs if we do nothing. That's the projected. Our mission is how do we create 190,000 new jobs on top of that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. So our entire strategy is driven how we deliver about another 200,000 jobs into this market that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so part of that strategy is, right, defining lanes better. So the chamber, critically important, as you benchmark the best performing regions, Columbus is actually the best performing in the United States currently over the last decade. You need a strong regional chamber. You need a dedicated economic development group that only focuses on marketing your region globally, right? This is a global competition for jobs, not a regional competition for jobs. And you need a strong group of CEOs that are aligned behind this, right, and funding a program of this nature. And that's what we call the CEO group. And so we represent the same geography as the chamber. It's the 11 counties, 4.4 million people, about 2.65 million people in the workforce. And so we mirror the coverage of the chamber, and we work on behalf of those 11 counties in the city of Detroit. Really key is we are private sector led. So for every dollar of government, we match that with $20 of private sector funding. We're chaired by Jerry Anderson, the CEO of DT Energy. We're in startup phase. We have 15 of our 25 board seats. But really, our strategy is being guided by the people that are creating the jobs in this market. And so you can see some of the folks that are on there, including our elected officials from the 3 counties in the city of Detroit. But a lot of the top executives are providing guidance to us on how we drive this economy forward. And again, a 20-to-1 match in terms of support. Some of the additional names, right, these are kind of friends and family. We haven't had official fundraising campaign yet, but these are people that heard what we're doing and wanted to come on board to support it. Really importantly, though, so we have our governing board, which is largely private sector and the top CEOs, but we convene then what we call the partner council. This is the practitioners. So we have a representative. Vicki is the lead for Macomb. We convene on a monthly basis, the 11 counties, the city of Detroit, their economic development leadership, and they're the ones guiding our strategy, right? So they are intimately aware and helping drive what we do and why we do it. So the communities on the right-hand side are all the 11 counties in the city of Detroit that are part of our governing structure. Really 5 key principles for us, right? How we measure ourselves and what we do. Robust growth, right? If we continue to do the same things we've always done, we're never going to move beyond our peak job growth. It's not going to happen. So how do we accelerate that? The other piece is jobs for all, right? Often economic developments focus on creating jobs that are 6 figures, right? This is about how can we create jobs for all skill levels in our economy. Obviously, we have a strong manufacturing base. How do we continue to support and grow that? Deep prosperity, right? That's looking at, right, what are segments of the population that maybe are underemployed or not employed that we can help get back to work by attracting the right jobs that appeal to the skill set of those people. Regional impact, everything we do, it's not city, it's region. How do we drive impact to all 11 counties? And lastly, collaborative ecosystem. We work with all the partners, including Automation Alley, to get this done. I'll go into a little bit more detail on these slides here in a moment. But really what our mission is to do, our team of 21 people, $6 million budget, is to go out globally and market this region, right? There's nobody else that is out taking the message of what's happening here in Southeast Michigan to business executives, leaders, influencers. There's right, no media that's doing that. There's no other economic development agency. So marketing is the #1 thing we do. Second is we physically are charged with getting in front of companies and making the business case in person. So that's directly my team that does it. We have 8 people that do that. And so literally it's getting in front of hundreds of new companies a year that don't know anything about Southeast Michigan and convincing them or helping them understand the benefit of coming here versus maybe it's Columbus, maybe it's Austin, maybe it's Washington, D.C. That's our job, is to be in front of them and make that business case. And then ultimately bring those opportunities back to our 11 counties in the city of Detroit to say, okay, guys, it's your job now to come to the table and help us convince this company to be here. Land, incentives, workforce, right? We rely on the network of the 11 counties in the city to do that. So that's very much what we were stood up to do. These are some of the other things we're looking at. It's data driven, right? We spent 6 months spent a lot of money looking at what are the clusters we have the right to win in and the ability to win in outside of automotive and mobility. We've looked at, the skill sets that we have in our workforce and how does that match to growth opportunities from the outside. So a lot of data that's driving this. We've now are focused on 7 clusters. So, right, auto and mobility is one of them. But we know if we don't grow beyond those clusters, right, we're going to continue to see the same growth. So you see some new clusters: corporate and professional services, financial services, some things that our region has never spent time in that we're charged with making sure we're making a business case globally and attracting new jobs and companies in these spaces. Metrics, so our board actually approves our metrics on December 8th, so I couldn't share the numbers with you guys. Until then, we can share it with Vicki right afterwards for you to take a look at. But directly, our team is measured by the number of companies we engage, the leads. These are companies that expressly have a purpose or interest in expanding into the U.S. over the next 3 years. Number of companies that engage us to actively explore investing in Southeast Michigan. The number of companies then we get to physically come into the market to actually see, because if you don't come here and see and you just read, right, the media, you got to see it on the ground because it's really a compelling argument. And the last is the number of projects we win outside of auto and mobility as well, right? Because we need to diversify the economy. That's directly what we control. The other metrics will track number of new jobs, number of investment, dollar and payroll we're creating, and ultimately number of pathway jobs. These are jobs that lead to ideally, right, a career that pays a competitive wage with benefits, right? In our market, that's $20 an hour plus benefits. That's what you need to basically have one job, not 3 jobs. So we'll be tracking how many of those jobs we create in this economy as well. And, the output ideally is reduce poverty rate, increase workforce participation, and grow the regional GDP here. So that's a high-level overview of kind of who we are and what we do. Really, what we're here to do is market this county and this region. The stories come from you guys, right? We package those up and we take those out globally, and then we bring back actual companies that are interested in knowing more, and we engage Vicky's team in the other 10 counties in the city to help us make that business case and close the project. With that, I will stop.
Okay, let me get a motion. Motion by Kraft, supported by Gillette. Commissioner Myjack.
Thanks for coming here today, Justin. Justin, good to see you. You said 6 out of 10 industries are recession prone. What are the 2 that are not?
The tech sector, and in our market, financial services as well. It tends to be the office-related occupations, right, that are more technology-oriented. The other 6 tend to be more the manufacturing-driven, right, that tend to be recession-prone.
Okay, second question. Did the chamber take any position on the film industry tax credits going back a couple years? Just curious your thoughts on that.
You know, I don't know that the chamber took a formal position.
Okay.
I was there at the time, but I mean, we did see that as a way to potentially diversify the economy. I don't think necessarily everything was set up properly to deliver or track metrics to make a compelling argument. So, you know, I think it was a good attempt. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, they couldn't show, I think, the results. I think if you look at markets that did it right, like Atlanta, they're reaping the benefits still today. But
how did Atlanta do it right and we do it wrong?
You know,
in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, they stuck with it for one, right? And they were willing to make an upfront investment that took years to pay back. Not all communities have the resources to do that. And they did have more aggressive tracking metrics to report out to the community and politicians.
And
kind
so
of what the outputs were.
they doing it right in Atlanta, is that the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia?
I think it's
doing
heavily driven by the state of Georgia,
state,
actually. It's a
gotcha.
lot of state funding, not the city, but a lot of that goes to the city region.
Right. I mean, when I hear about manufacturing in terms of tax incentives, correct me if I'm wrong, Leon, you might know this better than me. I think the state gives, what, 8 to 10 billion in tax incentives to the auto industry. I'm not sure if I might be a little bit wrong on those numbers, but I do know that the film industry in Michigan, I think at its peak, they're 100 to 150 million, you know, and that was just starting out, and you saw people coming here, people staying here. You saw the community colleges starting to teach courses in that industry, and all gone in 10 years. And I thought that was bad. We missed the boat. And, you know, Michigan chose not to do that, but we're choosing to bring marijuana everywhere, you know. So I don't understand that. But
What I'll at least say with the partnership strategy, right, I mean, the sectors we've picked, right, we've looked at global growth, right? Where are the future jobs at based on technology and global performance? Where are we strong now, right? Where is our talent base? Where is our supply chain? Where are the leading companies? And put those together, where do we think we have the best chance to win future jobs? We were very thoughtful in picking those. You know, I think film could have been one, but right, didn't stand up to the metrics we set forth. I think the additional sectors we've identified are the ones we're going to have the best chance of getting to that 190,000 additional jobs in.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Georgia they offer free college education to residents if they maintain a certain GPA, don't they?
You know, I think it's Tennessee, right, that has the statewide promise. That's something the chamber has worked on
They
really for years.
must have had it before then, because my sister's kids went there.
I think Georgia Tech specifically has that promise to students.
And then
I thought that was
Georgia
for
State.
elementary school.
we all have that.
Not Tennessee.
And Kalamazoo has something.
So that is actually a project that we work on. The Kalamazoo Promise became very nationally known. There is now what's called a Detroit Promise, and it's spreading throughout the region, but it started in the city of Detroit. So if you maintain, if you graduate from high school, public, private, or charter in the city of Detroit, there is a path for you to attend one of the 7 community colleges, including Macomb. That is now spreading into some of the other municipalities
I'm sorry, can I just, for just a second? Sure. Who pays for that? I mean, so Macomb residents can't go to Macomb for free, but you're telling me Detroit residents can. How does that work?
It's called last hour scholarships, so most of it is funded through Pell Grants, and then, which, are federal, and then there is funding, a small amount of funding mechanism by the state. It's really facilitating the program to help the students, but there are other communities that are adopting this, and there is our group, our talent group is actually looking at starting that resolution. And then there's discussion at the state level to make it community college statewide, like they have in Tennessee.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if we don't have to pay, we'll adopt it tomorrow. So there's, obviously, it's a little more complicated than that. Chair Smith.
Thank you. Well, speaking of Detroit, I would say that our general image is kind of based on Detroit, right? I mean, we're looking at other states and other countries, and it seems lately that Detroit's really kind of had an upsurge in popularity as far as, restaurants and bars and a great place to live. And so I guess I'm asking first, why are we perceived so poorly of a place to do business?
So it's really over the last 24 to 36 months, it really has changed drastically from one where maybe it was negative to now people are genuinely interested in learning more, right? And learning about the opportunity. And I think that's a combination of two things, right? Resurgence of the city, right? Exit from bankruptcy in particular is part of that. But it's also the transformation of the auto industry. Young talent wants to be, right, in a job that they feel is rewarding and obviously pays well as well. A lot of that had gone into the traditional tech sector, right, or the finance sector. What we're seeing now is, right, this technology revolution in automotive, right, really, it's not designing a video game. It's changing the way people move and live, right? It's really, I think, compelling to people. And so now more than ever, I think we have a great story to talk about the transformation of our core industry as well as the core city that is really compelling. But if we don't put really strategic resources into getting that message out globally, nobody's going to do it, and that is what we're tasked to do.
What is that message? Just because obviously you're talking, we have older, we're not retaining the younger people for tech jobs and things like that. So I'm just curious what the message is that makes people want to come here.
It will be tailored for us based on the sectors we're talking to, but high level, we're the 14th largest metro in the country, so we're at scale to allow companies to scale. We have a workforce that's larger than that of 28 other states, so large workforce, both population and workforce. It's a tech-savvy workforce. People don't recognize it. We have 90,000 engineers employed in our market. It's the greatest per capita density in the United States. We have 35,000 software programmers. People don't realize that as well. And we have a robust pipeline. We have one of the largest graduate pipelines coming out of our colleges and universities that companies can access, right? So you can compete in a large pool of workforce as well as graduating talent that you can attract if you come here. Globally connected with DTW, right? Direct flights everywhere in the world, so you can get back to your headquarters or you can sell to your customers from here. The last piece, which is really key, is you can do that at a cost that's 30% less in terms of real estate and employment than the East and West Coast, right? Companies often look to those markets first. But, right, we have a really compelling story, and that's the start of it. We have the ability to go and have the data in each of these sectors really deeply, who your customers are, supply chain, cost of delivered parts and goods. I mean, it's really a compelling case, but you got to get in front of them to tell it, and that's really what we do.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Chair. Just be consistent in asking questions of people who are not the ones currently speaking. I'm going to ask a little bit of a broader question that may apply to the chamber as well. And it follows up a little bit what Commissioner Majek had asked about, which is policy determinations by the chamber. So there are, for example, some people who think it's a good idea to give money to Hollywood, and some people think it's corporate welfare. Or when it comes to the Regional Transit Authority, Macomb County may not like it, Oakland County may like it, or vice versa. How does your organization get involved in those kind of policy decisions? And How do that do it? And I'm thinking your marketing is a little less likely to do so than maybe the chamber, which historically has been. How do you balance what may be different, passionately held different beliefs about what is a correct or an advantageous public policy?
So I'll answer. I spent 7 years at the chamber, but I'll answer on the behalf of the partnership. In terms of the division of labor, we've made a clear line. The partnership will not do advocacy and policy, right? We will produce data that maybe informs other people, and we want to be a clear source in working with the chamber to produce that data. And we have the bodies and the resources to do that. So it's an informed discussion, but we do not go beyond that.
Okay.
So we stop there.
So with regards to policy that comes out of the Chamber's Government Affairs team, that is led by Brad Williams out of Lansing. We have a shop with 3 people in Lansing, soon to be 2 in Detroit. They are guided by the executive committee of the chamber, so no major policy decisions are made without the buy-in of the business community, which represents the board of the chamber. Okay, that's major. You know, whether to endorse or not endorse the film credits, which we did not take a position on, that is decided by the board at an executive level. Day-to-day things, that's the nature of the lobbying work that's done in Lansing. On the automotive side of things, we have what we call the Auto Caucus in Lansing that we work with. These are 4 bipartisan legislators, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. It was actually started by Senators Cole and Senator Bida a few years ago. They're out of office now, but new people are replacing them. We work directly with that bipartisan group to work on specific legislation that the auto industry wants that works with the bipartisan level of what they want to support in the legislature. We have a pretty good structure for what we want to do to listen to the business voice and take it.
So that makes sense, and obviously it makes sense that a chamber of commerce tries to take positions that would be helpful to the commerce community. That is perfectly logical. But how would a government entity joining that consortium make sense? Maybe, you know, if the decision is being made by the business community, which makes sense to me, maybe the government shouldn't be in it, so to speak, as members. It should be commerce, you know, people engaged in commerce.
Yeah, the chamber's board is made up of roughly 70, I think it might be a little bit more, business leaders from almost every sector you can imagine, and they represent and make up the business voice. When it comes to a government entity taking a position, Macomb has we have their ear. So if there's something that Macomb is interested in on the state level, the chamber's government affairs team will work with them very directly on that. Doesn't come up very much. I can't recall.
Yeah, Commissioner Gillette, if I may chime in, the chamber has been incredibly inclusive to us as they've taken stances, whether it be on incentives from the state of Michigan. They helped shepherd and lead the Good Jobs for Michigan campaign, also some transformational brownfield programs, which benefited the FCA investment.
Okay, I just want to point out to everybody that everybody's standing up and talking in their places, and so none of this is going to be picked up. So just so you guys know. And also to point out to everybody that we're almost halfway through the agenda. Okay? Continue, Commissioner Gillette.
Well, that wraps it up. That was the only questions I had. Thank you.
And Vicki has our contact if you have any other questions we can help with.
We're still, yeah, Commissioner Kraft. There's a list. That's why I'm letting them know. Listen, guys, we're halfway through this agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Detroit Regional Chamber obviously focuses on the Detroit region. Vicki, your department obviously focuses on Macomb County. Do you guys ever conflict when you're bringing in talent and industry over who goes to Wayne County, who comes to Macomb? Are you guys fighting over the same industry, the same talent? Because I find it counterproductive if we're giving you money and we're fighting you.
No, I mean, what we first have to, in at least the work we do, right, in trying to attract investment from outside the state, frankly, right, is we're not competing amongst ourselves. We're competing with a lot of other successful regions, right? And so we need to be united in how we approach that. And what we do working with the 11 counties, we bring a united proposal to these companies because workforce, right, that's why we're 11 counties. That's the 2.65 million people we bring to the table. Real estate, right, incentives, all those things are done collectively as a whole. We put together a single united proposal with input from all the partners and we share back to the company. It's absolutely critical, and we always hear this. The communities that are most aligned in their approach are most likely going to win these deals. When a company comes in and they see there's fracture that happens, they don't want to be here. It's a sign of weakness of your economy. And so we work really hard, and that's why this partner council exists. The 11 counties in the city, we work together monthly on making sure we're always aligned in our approach.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Where's the area in Macomb County that you're marketing? Going out in the world and you say, okay, there's a couple of spots on the Macomb County map you need to take a look at. Where are those areas today? Well, it should be. I mean, it is the next growth spot. It is the economic corridor of the county. It's coming revival up there.
At the first level, we market the holistic region, but once it starts to get more into niche, clearly the Mound Van Dyke corridor and the 23-mile corridor has historically been where a lot of the investment goes because that's where the real estate is at, right? Often it's real estate that drives these decisions. But 26 Mile is growing and right now beyond. What happens is when a project comes in, right, we basically run a real estate requirement working with our partners. It's the real estate that ultimately drives it, right? The labor force can move, the buildings and the land can't. And so it's often where's the best real estate for our project.
Right up the Van Dyke corridor.
Yeah, absolutely. Sterling Industrial Park, and is a great spot.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No, I said northern Macomb County. Didn't say
Washington,
southern Macomb County.
Hey, we have one business there. I'm just kidding. Commissioner Sauger.
You know what baffles me is I ride around this county like everybody else, and I see signs galore, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. So I'm kind of interested in what are your top 3 or 4 occupations that people are looking for? And I never seen so many signs out there, people come on in and work. And I don't know what they pay or what they are, but I see them all over.
I can kind of speak to that from the county perspective. When we look at the 33 open positions, in fact, the #1 job that goes unfilled in Macomb County is truck driver. That is actually a 6-figure paying job, right? There's just not enough of those going around that they are paying very highly competitive wages. We're also seeing an increase in the construction and skilled trades. A lot of our building construction is on hold because of that. But then also looking at some of those higher wage paying jobs, your engineers, your IT professionals, your skilled trades.
I didn't hear the one major one I've always looked at is the medical side.
Yes, when we look at the aging population of Macomb County, that is one area that will continue to remain stable and it will continue to grow.
Because I see where they'll take a person that's be a registered nurse, they'll give them a good bonus, and that's going on all the hospitals, but there is not a work shortage, that's for sure.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion passes 10-0. And next we have Automation Alley. I'm assuming you're doing that. Can I get a motion to receive and file moved by Myjack, supported by Gillette? Is this an automated? Automation Alley, yeah.
That would be great. So our next partner is Automation Alley, and hopefully this will clarify some of the questions you have on how each of these organizations are very different and distinct, but how they help us reach our overarching goal. So with that, we actually have Tom Kelly, who is the CEO for Automation Alley, with us today.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. For those of you who've been around a while, Automation Alley, we have a 20-year history. I've only been with the Alley as the CEO for the last 3 years. So I want to talk about what we're doing together in our 20-year partnership. So when I came into Automation Alley, a lot of the work we did was economic development. It was repetitive with the chamber. But as I looked around the world to see what is it that is happening, there was this term that kept coming up. It was called Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution. And really what that entails is, if you think about artificial intelligence, or 3D printing, or cybersecurity, or advanced materials, or collaborative robotics, any of these technologies today are very disruptive to manufacturing, to healthcare to agriculture, our 3 top industries in the state, and very solid in Macomb for those industries. This is a great threat to our perceived gross domestic product, is these technologies coming in to manufacturing or healthcare and changing the behavior of work. It's called a revolution because in these changes, where the first was steam and created the train, the second was Henry Ford. We created and owned the second industrial revolution. It was Henry Ford and electricity changing how work was done. And the third was computers and robotics, which we dominated, changed how work was done. Typically in revolutions, the people that have the assets from the previous revolution do not survive the change to the next revolution. We were lucky in that second and third we were able to keep up. As you see 3D printing, artificial intelligence, all of these technologies that are changing what has typically been a subtractive manufacturing environment and starts to morph to an additive manufacturing environment, creates great risk for our region. And so I said, Automation Alley, automation is in our name. We need to focus exclusively on helping our companies deal with this massively disruptive problem that is coming, and it's happening all over the world. The term Industry 4.0 was coined in Germany. The fourth industrial revolution is the term the World Economic Forum uses. Germany, South Korea, Japan, China, Mexico all have government-sponsored Industry 4.0 programs to dominate in this transition. So Automation Alley, our job is to help our companies make sense of this disruption. How do we navigate? And not only do we navigate it, we turn it into an opportunity. And so that's what we do, and that's why we have this partnership. And I will say one last thing, and that is that J.P. Rea is not only a board member at Automation Alley, he's our treasurer. So he actually watches the money for us over there. Yeah, thank you. So I'm happy to take questions, but that is what we do, and I'm happy to elaborate for anybody that needs it.
Okay, I have a quick question for Steve. Steve, the background we got on this is we got a check request and an invoice. And the check request has it broken down into 2 different line items for very odd amounts, $7,335.62. Do you know? You don't have this with you? Okay.
I'm going to guess. What's
All
the
right.
membership period?
I don't think we have it here, do we?
Is it some sort of, is it breaking it out?
I got a paper copy. I can give it to you. It's probably before that one. Here, you find that while I'm. And also, this invoice is dated 7/16/18. So, do we owe them some money?
You do believe so? I didn't come to collect. We thought the treasurer was taking care of it.
Okay, so
So yeah, what we're splitting this based on the membership period. So a portion of it is looks like the membership runs from August of one year to July of the next year. So we're splitting it between a portion being expensed in 2018 and a portion being expensed in 19 or prepaid.
Okay, so when you see these 2 line items, they weren't done at the same time, is what you're saying? They went out.
No, they were all in the same. We paid them $17,500 on this check request.
Okay.
Part of it was recorded as a prepaid expense. So we were.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe we owe them any money.
Okay. I don't have anybody else.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, and thanks for the explanation, by the way. I appreciate it very much.
Yes.
You know, a skeptic might imagine that businesses that have an opportunity to move into the next generation, whether it's 3D printing or whatever, Skynet or whatever is being developed, that some sort of quasi-governmental agency running around with a brochure about it isn't going to make a difference to them. You know, how can you how can we be certain that this particular program makes a difference in such a giant sea change picture with so many actors in the economy and so many companies, putting billions of dollars into investment to prepare for this type of future?
That is actually a great question. So if you see what's happening around the world with the fourth industrial revolution, companies that are large, that have capital and excess talent, i.e. R&D talent, they're spending all kinds of money. We call them in our town OEs and tier ones. They are spending money and allocating capital all over the world to win this bet. They are spending money existentially to win the mobility bet. The problem we have is that the tier twos on down, almost nothing is being done. And it's in that the risk for Macomb County comes into play, because very big companies will allocate capital on a global basis, and we cannot rely on their altruistic nature to stay in a region because they want to help the region, and they will pull the tier 2s, 3s, and 4s along with them. What we find today is capital and technology are being allocated around the world so quickly that they will just as quickly go right to China or right to Mexico and change suppliers like that. And so what we're trying to do, and what the World Economic Forum does on a global basis, by the way, the reason why I bring them up a lot is we are partnered with the World Economic Forum, and we are the first advanced manufacturing hub in the world stood up with them as they build these around the world. This is very, very critical that we help the smalls to understand, how do I allocate dollars I don't even have to keep up with a technology that may or may not win? This is a very risky game that we play, and we have to protect our smalls, because it's in the smalls that the sticky ecosystem survives. It's not in protecting the GMs and the Fords. They will allocate capital around the world, and they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to do that. We have a duty to protect our jobs here. Therefore, we have to get all the smalls to align and to say, I can do this. If they don't, if they miss that transition, we're all sunk. That's our view. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any other speakers. Please vote.
You're welcome.
Right, this is a receive and file. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
8 Mile Boulevard Association, motion to receive and file, moved by Myjack, supported by Drollet. And does anybody have any questions?
What is it? Why do you have it?
Okay.
Do you want to start? Okay. Yes, thank you, commissioners. Well, wait, I didn't catch it. I'd like to hear it for the record. Yeah. Sorry, I got to pick up a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I know how it's going. 8 Mile Boulevard Association is one of the state's most viable community development organizations surrounded around the 8 Mile corridor. Pretty much been inception now for about 25 years, in which the county, the city of Warren, city of East Point, have not only been foundational members, but have also, and St. Clair Shores also has been involved, have been able to deploy a number of innovative community development and infrastructure tools surrounding the 8 Mile corridor. There has been a refocused effort in 2020 with a newfound commitment to strategic community development along the 8 Mile corridor. Some of our greatest successes have not only been a number of the beautification efforts along the corridor and the major crossroads, as the V8 collaborative was created back in the day too, to not only unite the community development groups and the service providers in those areas, but also deploy strategic resources that come in from discretionary funds to MDOT for beautification efforts, cleanup, snow removal, things of that magnitude. Excuse me, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, too, also was able to create the Corridor Keeper program, in which we were able to assist the communities in along the 8 Mile Boulevard with planning and zoning with regards to blight removal, and also to community beautification efforts on that end. We've not only worked with our partners in the City of Detroit to look and learn from the neighborhood, City of Detroit neighborhood district elements that they put into play, where they have liaisons and ombuds individuals, where folks in the community can reach out not only to municipal partners, but also to county folks to come together along the corridor. And I will yield to questions.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, JP.
Hi.
So I just want to make sure I understand this.
Yes, sir.
You said two words in there. You said 8 Mile Boulevard. So 8 Mile does not run into the boulevard. The boulevard runs to Gratiot to 8 Mile Road. Is that what we're speaking about?
No, this is the entire 8 Mile corridor from Lake St. Clair all the way out to, I believe it's Southfield, out that way.
So from Lake St. Clair, going from 8 Mile Road all the way out to Southfield.
Yep.
That's one parameter. And from 8 Mile Road down to the boulevard? Because you're saying 8 Mile Boulevard.
No,
here's my point.
Yeah. It's just 8 Mile Road.
Well, I see that you're talking about renovation. It's just 8 Mile Road. Why is Boulevard in there?
Because they're calling it
They
that.
call it a
the
boulevard.
8 Mile Boulevard.
Well, okay, so my point is this.
Yes, sir.
Take a half an hour, get up to 8 Mile Road in Gratiot, and drive down to the boulevard. I don't know what blight they're removing, but it certainly isn't over there.
Okay.
And I see $5,000 being spent, in my opinion, foolishly. And I will not support this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't know what boulevard you're talking about because you can't, this is 8 Mile Boulevard.
No, they're saying 8.
Yeah, so, okay. I do know that this 8 Mile Boulevard Association also secures grants, do they not, for business owners to rehab across there?
Yep, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association has invested in facade improvement grants for businesses in both the City of Warren and City of East Point historically.
And they also do trash detail?
Yes.
Okay,
No, we actually have a program that is not affiliated with that in any way. Thank you,
I don't see
Commissioner.
any other speakers. Please vote. Sorry, motion passes 8-1 with Commissioner Romano voting no. Okay. Clinton River Watershed Council, can I get a motion to receive and file? Moved by Myjack, supported by Romano. And I don't see speakers.
I'll speak on this if that's okay. Madam.
Okay. Commissioner Myjack?
Is there anyone here from Clinton River? No? Well, I'll just say a few words. They've been, in my opinion, invaluable over the years. I know back in the 90s when we had the bacteria and the seaweed growth, they were involved. The Clinton River Watershed Council, they do a lot of education efforts with the schools and the kids. Personally have done stenciling of storm drains with them many years ago. Seen them release, I believe that was trout in the Clinton River a number of years ago. So that's all I have to report on them. They do a lot of other things. Those are just things I know personally that I've dealt with as a commissioner over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote. Oh, do you want to speak? I'm sorry. Did you? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
We have kayaking in the Clinton River, which we've never had before. I want to start to turn really good. Believe it or not, I've seen people walk into Grass Park, go down to the river, and go fishing. You can't hear Italian speak. You can't hear I got it. Thank you.
Okay, please vote. I didn't get to vote. Okay, that passed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. St. Clair Sanilac Conservation District, motion to receive and file by Kraft, supported by Sauger. Any questions? Commissioner, are you gonna, oh, no, please vote. I thought you were gonna ask a question. Motion passes 9-0. Stream gauge. Does anybody know what this is? I have a question, though. Motion to receive and file by, okay, motion to
Well,
receive,
not really,
wait, motion, hey.
I know-
Hold on
I don't-
hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
Motion to receive and file by Myjack, supported by Romano. Now you may, go ahead.
I know a little bit, Jerry Santero knows a little bit more. It's with the measuring water flow and rain flow on the river and how it affects the watershed. And it's done every year through used to be the U.S. Geological Society, but I think it's done in partnership with Michigan State now. But anyway.
It's actually the gauge program that we monitor the river level. Clinton River is traditionally one of the more flashy flooding rivers in the state of Michigan. And as a result of it, they do maintain several locations throughout the watershed in which they do monitor the flood stages and regular flow of the river, which is allowing us to do additional programming through some of the federal programmings and the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, including the program we brought to you last month with the North Branch floodway plan. And then there's also an additional effort through the University of Michigan, MSU, to do the actual additional monitoring. So the program, it's going to be the most monitored watershed, at least in the state of Michigan, because of how frequent we flood. And so because of that, we're going to be able to do programming eventually around some of the data that's coming through that system.
Okay, thank you. And the only thing we have in our backup is a $3,000 invoice for a permit fee. I don't see anything else. Did you guys see anything else? Okay, and Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you. Yeah, you did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jerry, stream gauge, so is this just for the rivers and the streams, or is this also Lake St. Clair? Is this the entire system?
All of the gauges that are put within the river system are actually on the river. Okay. However, Army Corps of Engineers still uses that data for our continued high water levels because we had so many heavy rain events and ice cover this last year. You know, they can use those as predictors in modeling for the lake level.
Does this in any way link up with the real-time water monitoring system?
It does. Okay. It's the primary monitoring program that's been in place for a long time. We use that to actually calibrate the other system that's coming in, the state-of-the-art programming that was done through the Office of the Great Lakes through the former administration, but that was a program that we'll be able to utilize. University of Michigan and MSU, we're working with them directly right now to actually develop a future floodplain for the North Branch so that we can ask those communities to plan around actual future full development of our communities.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wait. You're flowing downstream. I'm just two quick questions. One, how long has the program been in existence, or has Macomb been a partner in the program?
Well, USGS has traditionally always, as long as I can remember, back from probably back, you know, as far back as they go, they started monitoring the rivers. However, the new system has been put in place that was staggered in over a period of time, probably starting in about 2010, 2011. Okay. So you have, it's more digitally based and it's remotely based now. So.
And you had mentioned a number of projects that were being developed that we're hoping to bring forward in the near future. Can you, has there been projects we've already brought forward in the past that have we benefited from in the system?
Well, like, yeah, I was going to say the FEMA program, has traditionally used that data. It helped Macomb Township figure out that their flash flooding on the North Branch resulted in the permanent vacating of several residents on Packnick Drive.
Wouldn't they just be able to look and see the flooded residents
because
on Packnick
they have
Drive?
to be able to back it up with whatever data they have. So they do utilize this information for future modeling and for indicators. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote. And the motion passes 8-0. Next, we have library for the blind. Move to receive and file by Haas, supported by Sager.
No, there's an agreement.
Okay, okay. All right, so I don't see any speakers for this. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. Okay, we have correspondence, follow-up information received regarding the district court fees. Is there a motion to receive and file? Moved by Kraft, supported by Hogg. Please vote. Yeah. Yeah, because also, okay, new business. Yeah, because Steve just walked out, and I was going to have a couple of questions about what you guys discussed, because we may need to do something relative to that. So do you want to give the update tomorrow?
Anytime you want.
Okay. All right. We can even put it like up at the top of the agenda just to, okay. All right, so we'll dispense with that, and I have one other thing, and that, yes.
Thank you. In the paper, it announced DIA was going to seek renewal of their millage, put it on the March ballot.
Well,
correct?
I have a, want me to comment on that? That
Sure.
was my new business.
No, you can have it.
They're going to come next Monday. The director and the chairman are going to come and present that to us. It is not us, I mean, we don't put that on, or we don't vote as a board to put it on the ballot. The Art Authority does. However, we have two members from the Art Authority. The other day we met here with there was some miscommunication going on between our members and the actual director. They do want to put it on early next March. A couple of the communities have already voted to approve their members to put it on the March ballot. That vote will not be taken until December 3rd at the DIA. They're going to come and present to us next Monday. And our members from the Art Authority Board will come here on a meeting on the 2nd and get I guess we'll vote on it then, on our direction for them. So we're going to have a little time to talk about whether we want to direct our two members out of the whole board on how they want to vote.
But we don't have to vote, put it on the ballot.
We do not.
Okay, the paper was incorrect.
No, we've, it's the Art Authority that votes, but we put two members of that Art Authority in place.
Okay, and I have one thing. Commissioners, what I would like to do with regard to the amendments, and I think we're going to start on them next week. There's some question about that. Bob wanted to handle something else first. But as it stands now, we have that scheduled to start the process on Monday, correct? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get all proposed budget amendments from commissioners into our offices by Friday at noon. Is that what we decided?
You want to start with Thursday at 5.
Well, we wanted to go Thursday at 5, but today's Wednesday, so we didn't know if you'd get that done. But we want to be able to get those budget amendments over to the county executive's office for them to review so that they have an opportunity to respond to any of them if they want to. That's been a complaint that they've made every year, is that we do the budget amendments first and then take their input second. So I thought I'd give them the opportunity to give their input first. We have a meeting tomorrow, so we should probably go Friday. He's going to need a week and a half. He'll be up for the next 48 hours. Anyway, so we're going to go Friday at noon, and Friday at noon is the cutoff, hopefully, for prospective amendments. I know you all have the right at any time before we adopt the budget to add others or change anything, but maybe we could at least get an initial list. Yes, Chair Smith.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows the timing, the timing, we just have to pass a budget by the end of the year, right? So what we're trying to do next year or next week, in the next couple of weeks, is get something done early. The timing is, let's say we amend the budget or don't pass the budget. The executive's office has 10 days in which to act, veto or not veto. If they veto it, then we have up to 30 days then to act again. It doesn't mean we have to take 30 days. There's a very good possibility that if there are amendments and back and forth, that we could still handle all this by the beginning of December as a vote and still keep it within our existing meetings in December to do what we would do depending on what the situation is. So I just want to let you know that there are other meetings coming up that this vote does not have to be taken right away, but I think getting the amendments in to discuss them as soon as possible is a great idea. And I think part of that's going to come tomorrow, talk at least the conversation on what the conversation was down in the executive's office today. So we'll have a little better direction.
Yeah, we'll have that, and then the request is to give them until the next day at noon to submit. And if it's not a full list, it's not a full list. We would like to at least, I would like to to change up how we do it and give the county exec's office an opportunity to respond to amendments before we vote on them. And if we had a second round of amendments, we could do that. I'm just hoping to get something out so that we have something to look at for next week. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the procedure you're suggesting is one that I recommended, but now I regret because now I have to do it fast. So I don't see anything wrong with having a timeline and a schedule. And you probably would notified us prior to today about that deadline, and I'd probably just let it fly by. So I'll just have to work a little harder. Thank you.
Well, and I think the concern is, I mean, we could get done early in December, but if there's a veto and then it comes back to us, and all that has to be finalized. So, and if we did another one and there was a veto, see, I'm just saying that's why it's, we started the budget year much later this year too than we usually do. So.
Well, we started when we received it, I believe. But
yes, we did.
But okay, I will endeavor to try to prepare whatever amendments I might offer by this Friday, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, because we're going to start Monday, I think. With that, I don't have anything else but public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Motion to adjourn by Gillette, supported by Kraft. Please vote. We're adjourned.